Hey, good afternoon, my friends. I'm MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa. Man, it's been a barn burner of a summer, hasn't it? Dew points in the 70s all the time. A lot of folks are craving some cooler weather. And of course, the next question, what in the heck does Mother Nature have in store for us for the winter here in Michigan? And again this year, there are some things that we can start to look at to give us kind of a signal as to what the winter will be like. I know last winter wasn't bad for us winter lovers. I mean, it was warmer than normal, but we had some real interesting snowstorms. Let's see what's going on for this winter. First off, we can't deny it, the Great Lakes, the water, and the temperatures have a big impact on our winter weather. These are the temperatures right now, and they are all warmer than normal. All of the Great Lakes, 60s, 70s, even close to 80 degrees in Lake Erie. So a warmer than normal body of Great Lakes is going to slow down the cold air early in the season, and it's going to make things a little warmer. And I think we're continuing with a warm September and October, so that'll keep the lakes warm. Now the next thing, remember last year was El Nino, El Nino, El Nino? Well, this winter it might be the opposite.
Mark, I'm going to interrupt you because our commenters are telling us we're sideways, so Facebook is foiling us again.
Oh.
So let's go that way.
Okay, cool. Well, actually I was walking sideways. So let's get back to this. La Nina. La Nina is when the water gets colder than normal in that same area where El Nino was. And this is right now. You see the blue? Those are areas out in the Pacific Ocean. Here's Mexico, here's Australia, Asia. This is the area where a La Nina is possibly developing. And it does somewhat of the opposite in the winter than what El Nino does. You know where I'm going with that, because you know that we talked endlessly last year about how El Nino keeps us warm for the winter. Now, these are all of the entities, all the organizations that want to forecast what's going to happen to the La Nina. And here's the forecast. 0.5 degree Celsius colder than normal, 1 degree Celsius colder than normal. All of this region would be considered a weak La Nina, probably wouldn't have a major impact on our weather. If it would get down to 1.5 or 2 degrees, it would have a big impact. And the average forecast is for La Nina to stay pretty weak, and it might not be a factor in our winter weather. But if it is, let's look at what La Nina normally does and what our winter or weather is like usually in a La Nina. So in a La Nina, October through December, dry, dry, dry. The first half of the winter, the first half of the cold months would be drier than normal. The second half, like I said, is kind of a split personality type deal with La Nina. The second half, a storm track develops here down in the south and moves northeast, wet, 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 and Michigan tends to be kind of on the edge of that, especially southeast. By the way, snowbirds, El Nino last year, not real great in Florida, right? Cold, stormy, wet. La Nina, opposite. Look at this, La Nina in the winter months, dry and warm in the southeast. So, snowbirds, you might have a much better winter this year. All right, what does the government say? Well, it's the government. This is the National Weather Service temperature forecast for December, January, February. And what do they say? What the government says a lot of times, nothing. They give us equal chances of colder, warmer, or normal. I'm not going to do that to you, but what they're also saying is warmer than normal conditions likely in the south and maybe colder in the north. Precipitation, they almost take it right out of the La Nina playbook, except that they back that storm track up, and precipitation would make a very interesting winter here in Michigan if the National Weather Service forecast bears out, because they have an above normal chance of precipitation, and look at kind of how they have it angled. That's the track that gives us the interesting storms. All right, so what do I think? is going to happen. Remember, this is an early forecast. We got to wait another month or two to see a few things as they evolve. La Nina and how much snowpack is building up in the polar regions. That's a good indicator of how much cold is going to be there. But for me, winter's going to be slow to get going. The Great Lakes are warm. I think September looks warmer than normal. Probably October, probably November. The lakes stay warm. That acts as a buffer. So I don't think we're looking at snow and deer season, firearm deer season. December, it might be tough to get snow in. I think the winter will be warmer than normal. I think La Nina will not be much of a factor. I think the Arctic is warm. The polar ice caps are melting. There's not a lot of cold air up there. The polar vortex has moved north to the pole and shrunk some from what it was a couple years ago. I think we're going to start to see the influence of a warmer globe, and I think it will help us, along with the Great Lakes, to have a warmer than normal winter, whether you like that or not. Drier than normal, late fall into early winter, and I think it's going to transition. I could buy that storm track will get more active in the second half of winter, so we transition to average moisture. But if we're warmer than normal in December and warmer than normal in the winter, I think we have a tough time having above normal snowfall, about 25% less snowfall than normal. And here's an interesting thing that I think could happen this winter. I'm not forecasting ice storms like 1976, but I think it's something we want to watch for, because if you take that storm track from down to our south, just off to our east, you take us with ample moisture, you take us with a little bit warmer than just flat out snow temperatures, that means you get into some ice accumulations, and that will be a different track than most of our ice accumulations, where we get a 3 to 6 hour shot of ice and then it melts away. So that's something we may want to watch. So in all, I would call it a less than brutal winter coming from mid-Michigan and all of Michigan. And I think that we want to watch the La Nina, see how it's going to be strengthening or not strengthening. And if it strengthens, it could be a whole different ballgame here in Michigan. The second half of winter could be on the brutal side. I don't know if we have any questions. My buddy Bernie Ing, a fabulous photographer, videographer here. You see anything that we need to talk about?
They are rolling through so fast, Mark, you're going to have to grab them on the Facebook page.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the Facebook page now, and I'm going to start typing away, try to answer your questions. And I'll give you an update in a month or two when we see what's going on as far as La Nina and a few other things. For now, just enjoy the weekend. It's a great summer weekend with just a taste of fall. And we'll see you back here soon. I'm MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa.